Hey there, welcome back. I'm Tara from Wild Bird Farm. I garden here in Zone 5 in central Iowa. Today, since we are in early August, it is time to get some seeds started for late summer planting so they can establish themselves to live through the winter, and we'll have earlier blooms next year. So first, let's run through the seeds that we're going to be starting today. First off, I have some Nora Barlow Columbine. I got this from Select Seeds, and I actually started some of these in the spring. I didn't have great germination. I think I maybe have 6 or 8 plants. I actually had to move my Columbine. The place they were at just got too weedy. So we're gonna do a little bit of a reseed here just to help fill in that row. Now this is one that likes a cold stratification period, so these seeds have been in my refrigerator for a couple weeks. The other packet of seeds that has been in my fridge is a delphinium. This is from GeoSeed. It is Magic Fountains Cherry Blossom White Bee. So it's a pink flower with a white center. I have quite a bit of blue delphinium, but I'm finding that I use it quite a bit, so I thought some pink would be nice. So these are also ones that have been cold stratified. Now, I did also have my Canterbury bells in my fridge. I'm not sure if this one was needed. This is a lilac campanula. I got these from Eden Brothers. Let's see. These actually say the preferred method is direct sow. I've never direct sowed my Canterbury bells or my campanula, so we're going to go ahead and try these. Now it does mention cold stratification on the package, which is I'm sure why I put them in the fridge, but these will actually go in my unheated high tunnel. I've done this before where I put a little plant start out in the high tunnel. I'll cover it during the very coldest weather, probably if we get under 0 degrees Fahrenheit, but otherwise these overwinter really well for me, and they're more robust when I start them now versus in early spring. 2 more, we have got Tetra White Feverfew, also from GeoSeed. Feverfew is one that I love to have in the garden. Now I'm gonna have kind of like 3 successions hopefully next year. I have several patches out there established right now in my garden, but starting these in the fall, these will be a little bit taller and bloom sooner. And then I will also plan to sow more in late winter, early spring to hopefully get yet another succession. So the Tetra White are the real fluffy little white ones. I really enjoy those about the most. So we're gonna see if we can get some seeds started there. And then the final pack I have today is a dianthus, which is in the Amazon series. This is Rose Magic. This is also from GeoSeed. I only have 100 seeds here. I think I'm gonna start 50 now, and then I'll start another 50 in late winter, early spring to see if I can get a couple successions. I really love putting dianthus in my hoop house. My hoop house is getting full though. So in past years, I've actually always grown this, at least a successful dianthus in my hoop house. I just find I get really long stems. Outside, it was a little too short, at least for me. We'll have to see if I have room. This might be something that needs to go outside, and I might need to minimally cover it outside. But if I can find room in my tunnel, it will definitely go in there. I actually brought in plugs of the Rose Magic last year, put them in my tunnel. They were looking beautiful, 2.5, 3-foot stems. And then they got some sort of soil-borne disease or fungus, and I didn't get many blooms off of them. So we're gonna go a little bit more economical route this year and start some seeds. So I started a little bit before I turned the camera on, just getting my soilless medium ready and getting some cells ready with soil. I've been DIYing my soilless medium to start seeds all year. I use this all spring. It's been working quite well. I've been using sphagnum peat moss. You could definitely use cocoa coir. That's what I have around, so I've been using it. I like to put perlite in the mix, and then I also put a little bit of compost. Now, if they were going to stay in their cells past 6-ish weeks, I'd be using more compost and more nutrients for the plants. But since I really just want to get them started and then they'll be planted out here soon, most of this is the peat moss. Now let's talk a little bit about timing. A lot of the seeds that I'm starting today need about 6 weeks before they're ready to be planted out. So we are in early August, which means mid-September, I will be planting these out. Now, sometimes it's pretty warm here. I would say I have some flexibility one way, a week earlier, a week later, maybe even a couple weeks later if we're in a real hot spell. But generally, I'll be planting out these seedlings in mid-September, and that's going to give them a full month to get settled and really get rooted in the ground before we start seeing some frosts. So generally, we see our first frost in the first or second week in October. Of course, we aren't seeing hard frost or cold weather for at least 2 or 3 more weeks. So generally, since these plants are hardy to my zone 5, that's going to give them enough time to settle in for the long winter. Now, in past years, I have used leaves and bark mulch to sort of compost and mulch around these young plants. That helps them a little bit through the winter months. I do not cover them with plastic or any sort of full covering over top, since these are hardy to my zone. As long as they have had time to acclimate to the temperatures, to harden off, and also get their roots in the ground for about a month, I have found that this way is very successful for each of these varieties. All right, let's get started planting. So the first one I grabbed is the Dianthus Rose Magic. And I mentioned I think I have 100 seeds and I'm going to do about 50 of them. So I have a 40 count tray here. See if I can hold it up. These are like the 72 cell size, but they're just in a 40 cell count size, which I find really convenient, but they're pretty good size cells. That way I won't have to be watering every single day. Of course, I forgot my plant tags inside, so I found some paper and a pencil, which will do until I have time to get my markers in these cells. Now, as a general rule of thumb, it's great to read on your seed packet how to plant each of the seeds. Generally, the bigger the seed, the deeper it wants to be planted. Now, these Dianthus or Sweet William are pelleted. So they're little yellow seeds. I'll get you an up-close view. And I'm just going to set these right on top of the soil medium. Now, this soil medium is just very, very lightly moistened. The compost that I put in here was pretty wet, so that's giving some moisture to this mixture, and then I will mist everything well on top and use a humidity dome. That's going to help keep the moisture in as well. See those little yellow things? That's the pelleted seed. To very carefully just put one on the top of each cell here, and we will get a close-up when I am done. Now, while these are pelleted, once I spray it with a mist of water, though the pelleted, the yellow part is gonna break down pretty quickly, but that's why it's important that you wanna keep your seed trays moist, not soggy, so they start having fungal issues. But definitely moist. You don't want your seeds to dry out before they've germinated. Here's a close-up view of those little yellow pelleted seeds. And I've got my handy pump sprayer here. We're going to go through and just make sure everything on the top is thoroughly saturated. And then, like I said, I will be putting a clear dome over top, and these will go under my grow lights, which are just regular old shop lights. All right, next up is the delphinium. I am going to use this partial tray that I have here with 20 cells. I think if most of those germinate, I will be quite happy. These little guys look just the color of the soil. It's going to be a little bit harder to see, but again, I'm just going to try to aim for one in a couple of these cells. If I get two, no big deal. That'll be a little bit of insurance if one doesn't germinate, but hoping to get about 20 of these to add to my perennial row. And I don't use a toothpick or anything like that. I just pick up a few seeds and I roll them in my fingers and try and drop one. And if I get two, I can go back and move it, or it's not that big a deal. So pretty quick work out of those. We're gonna give it a good spray here. Now, another thing I like to do, especially with something like this, where the seed is decent size, but it really wants to just sit on top of the soil, is to come through with a light layer of vermiculite, and that helps hold in the moisture, and it just adds a real thin layer to the top of your soil medium. Now, of course, as I say that, all I have is some coarse vermiculite, so unless I grind that up in my blender or something like that, I'm probably going to skip that step. Again, want to water the seeds in well because that water aids in germination. All right, 2 down. All right, next up are the columbine seeds. These are quite tiny. Not quite as tiny as snapdragons, but close. So I have a tray here. Let's see. 25 cells. We're going to do our best to fill this up. I don't have a ton of seeds left, so we may be a little bit close in getting all of these done. Now the seed packet I noticed did say 8 to 10 weeks on these. So we'll just kind of have to monitor and see. They might need to be under lights a bit longer than what I was hoping for most of these seeds. But columbine are very hardy to my zone. I think, let's see, does it say on here? Zones 3 to 8, so hardy down to zone 3. So they're pretty tough. So unless we have an early cold snap, I think putting these out pretty young is going to be fine. Looks like I have enough seeds. So again, we are going to water these in, and we've got 2 left. Okay, 2 varieties left. I got 2 40 count trays ready. One is Canterbury Bells Lilac, and the other is the Tetra White Feverfew. Now, as I said, this probably isn't a lot for Feverfew. I'd normally do like a 72 cell tray or 128. But I'm also going to try and take cuttings. I need to go out and see what my plants look like. My Feverfew didn't do great this year, but I'm hoping there's some that I can take cuttings of and try and root. I've been having really good luck with that. I did that with my marigolds this year. I did that with some mums, and that also went really well. I forgot how small Campanula was. This is more pelleted seed. I'm going to pull the camera up close for this last 2 rounds. Okay, super tiny Campanula. Look like I have any extra seeds here either. So hopefully we have enough for this 40 count tray. And as you can see, I think so far I've had 2 cells with 2 seeds, and if needed, we'll go back and pull those out and spread them out. We are having such a cool spell here, which is such a relief. We had warm temperatures, high humidity for just weeks on end. Plus, we've been getting unprecedented amounts of rain this year. Oh wow, that's it. I'm not even gonna get 40 out of here, which how many we're supposed to, I'm gonna have to go back and double check. I think I might have gotten shorted here. I was saying my dahlias look okay, but even a little bit too much rain for them. I haven't had to supplemental water at all, which is sort of crazy for our area. All right, so it looks like we have 31 seeds. So that's kind of a disappointment. That is less than what I wanted for Campanula, but we're just gonna go with it. And then let's head over and we will do the feverfew on the other side. Actually, let me write my note here quick. Campanula does take up a decent amount of space in the hoop house, and I'm kind of short on space. So I'm sure everything will work out just fine. All right, Tetra White. Doesn't look like I quite got this open. More tiny seeds. Now let's see, I got 500 of these seeds. Look at that. So for feverfew, I will probably not be getting 1 seed per cell, but we're gonna shoot for under 3 seeds. We'll see how that goes. I mean, I could definitely do this more carefully, which for me would mean quite a bit slower. Can you see this? Yeah. But for me, speed is important. I don't have all day to be out here doing this, so we will come through and pull some of these extra seedlings when they pop up. And sometimes when I do this, I will take, if there's a couple good looking seedlings in a cell, I will take another 40 count cell and I'll double my number of seedlings. So that's not a bad idea either. Okay, we're gonna water these in and then we are done. Now, if you are thinking about starting some seeds now for next year's blooms, the key that you'll wanna look for, actually 2 things. One, the seeds that you're starting, you want to make sure that they're hardy to your zone. So like we looked at zone, let's see, the columbine started from zone 3 to 8. So pretty much anyone and everyone in the lower 48, except for the hottest areas, can grow columbine. If I have a seed packet that says zone 6, since I'm a zone 5, that isn't something I want to be starting now. That's something that I will start next year because it means generally it's not going to live through my cold winter season. Now, if you're putting it in a hoop house, you can generally go up 1 to 2 zones depending on how much protection you're going to give it within your hoop house. But a good simple way to do it is if the seed is hardy to your zone, you can start it in the fall before it will bloom. And then the second thing you want to keep in mind is starting it early enough so you're planting it out to give it about a month to 6 weeks before you start getting your frosts for the season. Now, I generally say a month before your first frost because those first few aren't generally hard frosts and something hardy to our zone can live through those first frosts. But as we start getting hard frosts, you want these plants to be acclimated and to have their roots in the soil and settled in. I hope that helps. If you guys have questions, be sure to leave them below. This, I believe, wraps up about all of what I am planning to sow right now early. Now, I will, of course, be soaking my ranunculus corms before you know it. We'll be doing that in a month or 2. Definitely lots of work around this time of year. But when I was trying to get perennials established, I was planting a lot more right now. So I'm definitely doing less this year than I have in the past. Yarrow is something I would start this time of year that does really well. Mountain mint I've started this time of year. You could do rudbeckias. Let's see, I thought there was something else. You could do lupin, you could do pretty much any perennial that's going to die back but that is hardy to your zone is what you could be starting now. But if you have questions, be sure to leave them below. I'll do my best to answer them, and I'll see you next time.